about how you are being perceived as a leader. Maybe you are in a leadership role and you are trying to determine, how can I influence my team? What are some things I can do? Well, before you start thinking about that aspect of leadership, we need to uncover something. Influence or manipulation? What's happening there? Are you building trust, or are you burning bridges? This is really important for you to know, especially if you are in a leadership role, whether you are at the beginning of your leadership journey or the end of your leadership journey. This is critically important for you. And in this video, we're going to unpack this and talk about the difference between the two. And by the end of the video, you should have a clear understanding in terms of what is considered influence, what is considered manipulation, and how do you navigate both of these, and how do you become someone that's a bit more influential. Now, I want to know from you, when you think of the two words, when you think of influence, what is the first word that comes to mind, or who comes to mind? Put it in the comments below. If you hear the word manipulation, what is the first word that comes to your mind, and who comes to your mind? Put it in the comments below so we can talk about it. Now, this channel is devoted to helping you communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure as a leader. Whether you are a woman in leadership, a man in leadership, or you are thinking about leadership, this channel will provide you with insights that you will not find anywhere else here on YouTube. This is a place for you to be able to learn how to navigate those very high stakes, high pressure situations that happen to leaders in various stages of their journey. Whether you're at the very beginning of your leadership journey or at the end, or you are in a highly visible role, you want to be able to master some of the skills I'm going to talk about today. Now, specifically, we're referring to influence. Influence is critically important, and I want to give a special shout out to Cat 23rd for this question. The question that Cat asked earlier today in our live, which talked about a secret to influencing others. If you want to know that secret, definitely check out the live from earlier today. I'm not going to go into it in detail right now, but Cat asked specifically, can using your power on others be considered influence? And my answer to that question is absolutely yes. Using your power on others can be considered influence, but it depends on what you are doing with your powers. That's what's really important. So we're going to dive into that a bit today. I want to say hello to Erie. I want to say, I know I'm going to say your name incorrectly, so I'm going to say Erie. Hello, welcome, welcome. For those of you watching the live, welcome, welcome today. Let me know, when you hear the word influence, what's the first thing that comes to mind? When you hear the word manipulation, what's the first thing that comes to mind? This channel heavily focuses on advanced communication skills and strategies. So we are talking about very, very professional information here. So if you want to learn and really try to elevate as a leader, then you absolutely want to continue watching this video until the end, and feel free to subscribe if you like the content. All right, let me see who's here on the chat. We have Jess Hughes, 8650. Hello, welcome, welcome. We have Fad says something about being a teacher. I hope all is going well with you. Arturo, hello, welcome, welcome. Okay, so Erie says trickery when you think of manipulation. Thank you, Erie. I appreciate you saying that. So trickery is a word that people think of when they think of manipulation. What words come to your mind when you think of influence? What are some words that come to mind? Put it in the comments below. We have trickery from Erie. Trickery is one for manipulation. What else comes to mind when you hear those two words? Put them in the comments below. But let's talk about them. So, can your power be used to influence people? Yes, it can. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the difference is between manipulation and influence, so that you know what you are doing or what you can do to navigate both of those. Erie also said teaching. So influence is considered to be a form of teaching. That's very great. Erie, I appreciate you mentioning that. Those are some really good insights. So when you think about the word influence, when we look at the definition of influence, it talks about making an effect. Now, I do not have the exact definition in front of me at the moment, but generally speaking, it's what type of effect are you having on people to change their behavior, their attitudes, and etc. That is really what influence is. Now, to add to influence, what do you think? Do you think influence can be good, or do you think influence can be bad? Or do you think it can be both of them? What are your thoughts? Influence can be either, in my very humble opinion. How many of you have been in situations in leadership roles or worked with other people where you have had a positive influence, someone that has helped you to grow, that's affected your behavior to help you to move forward? Or maybe you've had that negative influence where someone is doing something that maybe cause you not to be on task. For instance, when you have a coworker that just wants to constantly talk to you, or you have someone that just wants to constantly talk to you, maybe they're distracting you from what you need to be doing. What are your thoughts? Let me look in the chat and see. Fetchy. Well, hello, Fetchy. It's been a long time, friend. How you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back. Fetchy says, isn't influence like affecting certain people to make them do things that would benefit you? Now, Fetchy, that's going to be a bit more along the lines of manipulation, which is what we're going to talk about in a moment. Erie says it can be both, and Fetchy says both. Fantastic. So we know we've determined that influence can be a positive, it can be negative. Now, if we want to go even further, if you have some instances or some scenarios that you'd like to share with the audience, because many people watch the videos live and many people watch the videos on the replay. If you have any scenarios that's happened to you where you felt both positive and negative influence, put it in the comments below so we all learn. Now, when we think about manipulation, Fetchy alluded to this, and we're going to talk about manipulation specifically. Now, manipulation is going to be a form of influence. It still is a form of influence, but it may not necessarily be negative influence. Now, I know you may be saying, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. But when I looked up the definition of manipulation, it talked about the actual Latin word of manipulation comes from hand. So being able to control something, being able to affect something, which influence does as well. But the difference between manipulation and influence is that manipulation is going to be controlling, affecting someone in a dishonest way. Now, there's one aspect of the definition of manipulation that I saw online that I don't quite agree with, because it says you are controlling a situation in a very clever or dishonest way. I don't think clever necessarily means that you are being dishonest. So I actually disagree with the definition. I know that's probably not my place necessarily, but I do believe dishonesty is a key critical part of manipulation, because you are doing something in a way where the intent is not really to help anyone else but yourself. Now, how many of you have been in situations where you feel like someone was manipulating you as a leader? It happens to many of us. It's happened to me many times. And the key to being able to navigate those situations when they come up, when you feel like someone's manipulating you, is to identify it very, 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 very quickly. But sometimes you just simply don't know how to do that. And if you want to learn how, let's talk about that in just a moment. But going back to Cat 23's question, as we kind of have established that it depends on what you do with your power. Now, when we think about power in leadership roles, this is basically your ability to do whatever it is that you do that you are amazing at. That is where you become a superstar, or you have your own superpower, or I call it your superstar card. There is some card, there is something unique about each and every one of you watching this live that no one on this planet has. I don't know what that is, but you have something. And if someone ever tells you you do not, they are not telling you the truth. Everybody has something special about them. Now, that special power you have, just like with your superheroes, right? Your superheroes, it could be used for very good, it could be used for very bad. So when you think about different superheroes with their positive and negative. So an example would be Spider-Man and Venom, right? Two people, similar powers, but one is good, one is bad. How you use your power when you are working with other people as a leader and influencing them can definitely impact you in terms of your growth. Now, we talked about this a couple times already this week in terms of influence. So if you want to learn a bit more about some of the specifics about how do you influence other people, take a look at a couple lives from my live tab this week. That'll give you some insight there. But the key is that you can use your power to influence others, but the question is, how are you going to influence them? If you are influencing someone to become the best version of themselves, maybe you are influencing them in a way to help them to grow, to think differently, then that is a positive influence. And there is nothing wrong with you using your superstar card, as I call it, or your superpower to help someone else be successful. Now, many people on YouTube do just this. When you look at a lot of content creators that have been through different experiences in life, such as myself and other people out there, their intent is to help you grow because many of us may not have exposure to being in different situations or different aspects of life, which is why we have the opportunity to take a look at different videos and etc. to help us learn and grow. Now, how many of you have found influencers online or on YouTube where you feel like they have influenced you in a very positive way? Just put it in the comments below. All right, let me go to the chat real quick. Abraham P2222. Hello, Abraham. Good to see you, friend. It's been a while. Welcome back. Good to see you. Okay, Fetchy says people usually move depending on their dopamine system. So it shouldn't really matter if what we do is good or bad. Well, it does matter if it's good or bad because there are certain scenarios that can happen as leaders that can influence someone in a negative way. Let me give you an example. I've worked in senior executive roles and I have seen how the leader, let's say the leader of everything, affects their team and influences them. Even though what you're saying, Fetchy, I do agree with in terms of people are going to move depending on what's happening. But sometimes that influence can play a factor into the direction they move towards. For example, I've been in a situation where meetings have started off very negative, very, very negative. The leader of all the leaders is in a bad mood or something's happened that's very catastrophic and stressful. And that influence that the leader has goes around to everybody in the room. Now, it's your choice as a leader if you allow that negative influence to impact you in terms of what you do. Now, many people, I'll tell you, Fetchy, that are strong leaders will be impacted by a leader that is above them that is doing negative things. You can look at any state, local official, public official, you'll see how there's people that may be associated with this person that tend to do things that are not very beneficial or things that appear to be out of character for them that you would not expect them to do because of the influence that they are receiving from the person that is the leader of them or over them or their person that they're working with. So I do believe that influence can change the direction you go into. I've seen it personally happen many, many times. It can be good, it can be bad, but manipulation is going to be a little bit different where you are being a bit dishonest about it. So let me go back to the chat. Fetchy says, even if we do something good, they would be prone to bad influential things because it makes them release dopamine. Well, and it just depends on the person. Everybody is different in terms of how their biochemical makeup is, in terms of what type of situations cause that to happen. So I appreciate you bringing that to the actual live today. It just depends on the person, but I've seen some really strong leaders do really foolish things because they have been influenced in a very negative way. And when they come back to their senses, they say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what was it got into me. I don't know what I was thinking." Exactly. All of that influence can come into play to make people do things that are not appropriate. Now, this is a prime example, a fantastic example of bad influence. Does that mean that leader was manipulating them? No. It doesn't mean the leader was manipulating them. They may not have been trying to do something intentionally to be dishonest to their teams, etc. It may be just that whatever it is that they were dealing with, they were not able to mitigate how they were controlling their emotions in a way to where it just went off on everybody else in a negative way. Now, the contrary to that is something positive. Let me know if you've been in situations where you've interacted with people and they have impacted you in a very positive way. For instance, I've been at several events here recently, especially this year, here locally in the South Florida area, where they have different speakers and individuals that are present that help to influence people or motivate people or inspire people in a positive direction, in a positive way, so that they are able to influence other people. Learning the difference between these skills is critically important as a leader. And if you find yourself in a situation where you feel as if I'm not sure how to influence others, or maybe my influence is not the way that I want it to be, then you absolutely want to reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org. You're welcome to contact me for an executive strategy session so we can come up with a plan and really dive into specifically what it is that you're dealing with. Why are you feeling as if you can't develop or be able to influence others in a positive way, and come out of our time together with a plan that will help you to be able to become more influential. Because as you are trying to navigate and elevate to different aspects of your careers, your businesses, your journeys, etc., your ability to influence others in a positive way is going to be one of the key fundamental aspects of developing a legacy amongst many generations. Now, as we mentioned earlier, manipulation is going to be the opposite of that. Let me know if you've all been in a situation where you felt like you've been manipulated. I have. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about a specific situation where I felt like that was the case. And then I'll share with you what I did specifically. Now, manipulation is not fun. And if you've ever been in that situation where you feel as if someone's manipulating you, sometimes what happens is you're just simply not sure that you're being manipulated. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you are in the middle of a situation and you may have a lot of things going on, but you're not able to take a step back and say, what's going on here? Why is this person communicating to me this way, and etc. Now, what happened to me specifically was when I was in a leadership role, I had someone who happened to be a boss of mine at the time, and they were trying to get me to do something that was going to cause my particular area that I was managing to lose a significant amount of money. There was a lot of pressure with it. There was some political pressure that was applied to me to say, hey, if we don't do this, we're going to lose this money, we're going to lose that money. And I felt like I was being manipulated. And I know I was being manipulated for sure, because they were wanting me to do something that was going to cause me to lose money, because there were political pressures that were causing them to do that. So that causing them to put the pressure on me. And I decided that I picked up on it pretty quickly and I said, okay, I'm being manipulated to do something because this, what was being told to me was not accurate and it was not honest. That's the key. Remember, manipulation deals with dishonesty. So it wasn't honest what they were proposing. And now I'm the one that's supposed to try to navigate this dishonesty. And so sometimes you got to pick it up really quick and then be able to navigate it and do something different. I didn't go for it. I didn't buy for it. I pushed back. And the fact that I pushed back led to me deciding to leave that particular organization, because I, at that time, said, I'm not dealing with nonsense and things that don't make sense. I'm not the person that's going to sit here and just sugarcoat and just suck up to people. Like, that's not me. And that's definitely something that you don't want to do. And when you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're being manipulated, you definitely have to be able to push back. Let me go back to the chat. Fetchy says, well, I am a student, so I don't have much experience in work life. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something, Fetchy. And I was this close, Fetchy, this close to doing a live this evening about a different topic, but the reason I'm doing this topic about influence is because we've been talking about it and Cat 23 mentioned it. Let me tell you something, Fetchy. Just because you are a student, that does not mean that you do not have experience. Even though you feel like you don't have experience in work life, many of the things that you will learn in school or you have learned outside of school will more than prepare you for life outside of work. Now, some of the times what happens, and this is completely off topic, so just give me a moment, let me explain. What I have seen that happens a lot of times is that there is a bias towards someone's age. Now, you can be someone that is very young, you could be someone that is middle aged, you could be someone that is a bit older, and people will sometimes look at you and say, "Oh, you're this, you're that." I see it happen a lot more with people that are younger and people that may be in college or maybe a student. I see a lot of people that may be older or maybe in middle aged that look at them and say, "Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Oh, they're young. They don't know what they're talking about." I want to let you know that you have your own unique experiences. As I mentioned at the beginning of the live, every one of you have your own superstar card. I don't know what your card is. I have a couple of them, and I know you have a couple of them too. But keep in mind, even though you may be new, you may be in your leadership journey, you may be starting out, you may be a student, as Fetchy mentioned, that does not mean you do not have any experience. There's certain things that you have more experience about than someone that may be older. Just always remember that even though you may still be building your skill set, don't discredit yourself in terms of the experiences you've had in life, because I'm sure you've had some pretty amazing experiences so far. All right, Fetchy says, by saying we will lose this money, they probably was trying to imply that it is your fault, as it would motivate you to work as they wanted to. Well, what they were trying to do, so what happened is it's going to a bit of a different direction, but a lot of times what happens when you are in senior level leadership roles and etc. is that there's some politics that go into play. There's money that's distributed, there's funds that's distributed. People will give you money for different situations or different projects in hopes that you will in good faith do what you said you were going to do. Now, in this case, the reason why money came to be an issue because at that particular time the organization as a whole were struggling a little bit. They were struggling a little bit as it relates to different aspects of the financial side of things. And when you have money coming in, you try your best to accommodate and to really fulfill those promises that you made from people that give you money. A key point of this is look at your elected officials. Look at your elected officials. This is a prime example of that. Elected officials are given money from different organizations or not given money from different organizations. There are plenty of elected officials out there who do not accept contributions from organizations. The reason being is that they don't want to be controlled or manipulated by someone else. This is a great example of that. And so in this case, Fetchy, it wasn't necessarily that they were trying to motivate me and make it my fault. It wasn't that. It was, guess what? We made some guarantees about you, even though you didn't know about them, but we did it anyways. And we didn't tell them exactly what was going on and how this was going to work because we didn't talk to you about it, even though you're responsible for it. So even though we didn't do that, and we just decided to make some guarantees, and it's not entirely quite honest, you're gonna have to figure it out. And I know it's gonna cause you to lose money, and that may look you make you look bad, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. Well, for me, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm strategically putting myself in a place where I'm going to look bad. Like I don't want to do that. Anyone that does that sometimes it can come out to be very catastrophic. So it was a little bit of a different situation. It wasn't necessarily my fault specifically, but ultimately, if things didn't go the way they wanted it to go, they would pin it on me as being my fault, even though I had nothing to do with the specific negotiations. Now we talked a little bit about using your power and does it influence others. If you influence other people in a positive way, you will build some of the biggest bridges that you can think of as it relates to relationships with other people and organizations. If you decide to go in the opposite and use your power for a very negative way, meaning you are manipulating people, then you will completely burn those bridges down. And when you're trying to navigate these very complex situations, you do want to be in a place where you can build bridges, because bridges, if you think about them, they are critical structures that are used to bring us from one place to the other. When you think about your career and you're navigating your career, you have to have some type of bridge to get you from one place to the other. If you do not have a bridge, then you will not be able to grow. Now, there's plenty of people out there that do a lot of manipulation all day, every day. They're being dishonest. They're doing something specifically to benefit them that may be at the detriment of whoever it is they're working with, and etc. Now, a lot of times people will get by with that. People will get by with that. They'll continue to do it for years. They'll continue to do it for decades. But along the way, they're burning their bridges. So just imagine this. You have somebody that is building bridges. Okay, they're building their bridges. They're walking over their bridges. But as they're walking over their bridges, they're throwing gas. They're throwing gas and lighting matches just as they're walking by. They're still on a bridge. They still got a bridge, but they're burning it as they're walking by. Now, that's a situation you don't want to be in as a leader, because that's a prime example of how you can use your powers to manipulate people in a way that will cause you to not be able to really build those relationships, because over time it may just life goes on, no one thinks about it, but it'll come a point in time when you need those relationships and they simply will not be there because you've completely just burned the bridges, and you don't want to do that. And if you're watching any of my content or subscribe to my channel, I really want you all to be able to be those individuals that can communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure situations, so that when those scenarios come up, you're able to articulate yourself in a way to where you can still build bridges, even if it's hard, even if you're having a difficult conversation, or you're providing difficult feedback, or you're speaking in front of a board, you're speaking in front of your constituents, or you're speaking in front of your business associates, a conference, or etc. I really want you to be able to have those communication skills where you can communicate confidently and concisely under pressure, which is why your ability to influence is directly affected by the way that you actually can communicate. So anyone that asks me questions when I talk to them about influence, they say, I don't know how to influence other people. It all comes down to how you are communicating. Okay, let me go to the chat. Fetchy says, once I forgot to do my homework and my teacher compared me with other students, saying I dropped my flag and she's carrying it now. That was probably a way to influence my motivation in a manipulative way, but it was too late when I noticed that. And that's the thing, and I appreciate you mentioning that, Fetchy. That's the way it happens sometimes. Sometimes we don't catch that we're being manipulated in the moment, because we just are in the moment. But the key to it is learning about the person. So I'm sure this particular teacher probably over time may have said something that would probably make you think, I don't know if that was really quite right, or if they're being supportive, or if they're what the case may be. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of reflection, as you just did, and I appreciate you so much for sharing that. But sometimes you do have to have some reflection and figure out, oh yeah, this probably was trying to manipulate and motivate me in a different type of way. Now, saying that someone dropped the flag. The key about this, I think, I would probably lean more toward influence in this area instead of manipulation, because I don't believe the teacher was trying to be dishonest. It seems like you forgot to do your homework. It happens, life happens, right? You forgot to do your homework, but then she mentioned that you dropped the flag. She was not being dishonest. Okay. She was not saying that you didn't do your homework and you did do your homework. So I would lean that more in the category of a negative influence, but trying to be a motivator. There's just different people have different ways they communicate, and sometimes they communicate in a way to where it makes sense and it's very motivational. But then sometimes they communicate in a way where you think that was really not the best way to motivate me, but I guess I'll do what I have to do. So that almost to me sounds like more of maybe a negative influence, but they're trying to get you to do your homework or something along those lines. But it's good that you thought about it after the fact. Probably not much manipulation, because I don't think your teacher was necessarily being entirely dishonest, hopefully. Fetchy says, I don't think she was saying that in a manipulative way, but a non constructive way to motivate me. Laugh out loud. Yes, I would agree with you there. I would agree with you there because it's the way you say it. That's why it comes down to communication, friends. It's the way you say it, it's how you say it, it's when you say it, it's where you say it, it's your facial expressions. That is why I am so incredibly passionate about communicating under pressure. Most leaders in the world know how to communicate to a certain extent because they are in leadership roles. But what happens when the conversation goes under pressure or it's a bit more challenging, or maybe they're frustrated, like Fetchy's teacher was, then they may not communicate in the most constructive way, right, Fetchy? So it makes it very, very difficult for the receiver of that information because it is just not constructive and not helpful. And that's the reason why people struggle. There's different ways that that could be handled. So, for instance, Fetchy, if that was the case and you forgot your homework, number one, the first thing is let's role play. Let's figure out what could Fetchy's teacher have done to make this a bit more of a positive interaction instead of something that was not constructive. So if I was Fetchy's teacher and I would say, Fetchy, I knew you didn't do your homework. Okay. Well, number one, I have to determine, do I need to have this conversation with Fetchy by Fetchy's self? Is this a one-on-one conversation I need to have with Fetchy? Does Fetchy always forget to do the homework or not? And if not, either way, I still would say I probably want to have a conversation with Fetchy. Now, the problem that happens sometimes in different settings and etc. is that people feel the need to try to make an example out of you. And when they try to make an example out of you, what happens? They will sit there and they will try to basically get a loudspeaker and say, Fetchy didn't do his homework, and it's not constructive. It's completely not constructive whatsoever. There's certain conversations that you do not need to have publicly in front of a lot of people, in front of a group of people. And in my humble opinion, if you would have missed your homework, I probably would have talked to you to the side and said, Fetchy, I noticed you didn't bring in your homework. Tell me a little bit about what happened. And let Fetchy talk, because let Fetchy can tell me, you know what? My dog ate it. I lost it. I ripped it. Anything that could happen to homework, because things happen to homework sometimes, and have that private conversation. So I would not have done that publicly in front of a group. I know sometimes people use the group dynamics to try to encourage the group, but sometimes it's good to just have that private conversation with individuals. So if I was your teacher, Fetchy, I would not have done that publicly. I would have pulled you to the side and just said, what happened? What happened here? Okay. Fetchy says, sometimes I forget to do it, but normally I am number one in the class, I can say. Well, there you go. So in that case, especially in that case, Fetchy, I definitely would not have made an example out of you in front of everybody else, especially when you typically do it. I would have just pulled you to the side and said, Fetchy, I noticed you didn't do your homework. Is what's going on? Or did something happen? Or tell me about what's going on. And Fetchy would have said, sometimes I forgot, I had this going on, I had that going on. And that would have been at the end of the conversation instead of making it something in public. Now, people use this. Now, I mentioned this in an academic setting, but Fetchy, people use this tactic in all aspects. When you think about being in those very high stakes, high pressure conversations, whether you are meeting with a group or you're meeting with the board or you're meeting with other constituents or you're just in a group setting, sometimes people will do that in a public setting to make an example out of you. They will do that. So, Fetchy, just because you're a student, please don't think that this just happens just as students. No, this is something that will continue depending on what type of leadership role you decide to go into. There are people out there that will try to make an example out of you. And when they do, that's when you need to use some of the strategies, the secrets, the techniques that I share with you here on this channel to help you be able to communicate under pressure and be able to respond back and not be the person that just completely freezes when someone may say something to them that might be a bit more challenging. Now, what could Fetchy have done in this case? So, Fetchy, let's say we had the situation happen with the teacher, you dropped your flag, and etc. This is just This is just my gift to you. Okay. This is what I would have done now that I know your backstory. And I appreciate you sharing that. If my teacher would have said to me publicly, okay, now this is my criteria, okay? If I'm having a private conversation with someone about an issue, then we are having a private conversation. Now, if you're trying to embarrass me in front of other people, that is when you're going to see the executive presence come out like that really fast. Now, if I was walking in and I forgot my homework, I forgot it or whatever, and I know, okay, we have to have data first, Fitchy. We have to have data. You know that you do your homework all the time, majority of the time, and sometimes you forget. Then this is what you could potentially think about saying if this happens again. I would say, okay, I forgot to do my homework this one time, but what about the other 50 times I do my homework? Sometimes you have to respond back with data. And a lot of times people are not comfortable with numbers and they surely are not comfortable with data. But when someone tries to embarrass you publicly, you just have to be mindful of it. And then when you're a student, of course, you don't want to be that person that's being maybe not nice to your teacher, but you also want to highlight the successes that you've done. I typically do my homework all of the time and highlight it that way. Okay, Fetchy says, I think publicly, if I spell it, I think publicity would make would only make others feel supreme instead of making them feel like they need to do something to improve themselves. Let's see. Yes, and so I agree with you on that because that happens when you're in a public setting. Sometimes people are trying to make an example out of you, and sometimes they're trying to basically show that they know something that you don't, or they want to make you look bad. And you're right, a lot of times when people are doing that, 100% fetchy, people are trying to elevate themselves in front of other people. And it just depends on the situation. Are there times when you need to do that? Most of the time you don't really need to, but if you're going into a contentious conversation and you know it's going to be contentious and you know it's going to be challenged, you have to get yourself ready for those moments because they will come up. If you look at any debates or any contentious conversations, I've been a part of several of those just as a senior executive, as a leader, as a person that's interacted with several congressional leaders over the years here in the United States. You're going to have those situations where you may be public in a situation where someone is completely just going in on you. You can't be that person that just sits quietly and says, "Oh, okay, okay." No, and especially if you're following my channel and subscribe to my channel or follow me on any social media platforms. Oh no, no, no. We're definitely not gonna have that happen with you. Like, no. But sometimes you have to remember that sometimes you do have to show that type of behavior. You have to show that type of executive presence depending on the situation you're in. And I share that in all honesty because these are things that people don't talk about. They may people come into situations all the time. They think that you are at a place where when you go into these leadership roles that everyone's going to sit there and just clap for you as you're walking up like you're in a toastmasters meeting. I love toastmasters. Okay, toastmasters is an amazing organization. I will never talk bad about it. But when you're in those very highly visible, very contentious roles, when you're walking up to meetings, nobody's going to sit here and clap for you. Okay, and sometimes when you're in front of people publicly, just because you stand up or you're talking, they're not going to sit there and clap for you either. And so you have to be mindful of that and know that when the conversation switches quick in a different direction, you have to be able to switch with it very quickly. And I always tell people just to, if you find yourself in those situations where, let's say, you're having a dialogue with somebody, especially if it's publicly is a big deal for me, okay? Because basically someone's trying to make you look as if you don't know what you're doing in front of a bunch of people. I don't like that. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think it's appreciated. Even privately, I still would definitely have a conversation about that. But if you get the sense, and you have to do some of the things I talk about on my channel, you have to be able to read the room. You have to read the person you're talking to. You have to be able to respond. You have to buy yourself time if you're not sure what to say so it doesn't look like you don't know what you're talking about. All of those things are very, 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 very important. But if you feel like the conversation is going in a different direction, you do have to change pretty quickly. And I always encourage my clients when I work with them in the one-on-one setting is that you always want to be a bit more direct in your response in terms of how you communicate than being more indirect. So, for example, if someone says something to you and they're kind of bantering with you a little bit, and you get the sense that I don't think I like this comment, then you want to respond back in a very direct, affirmative way, changing your tone of voice, making direct eye contact, all the wonderful things we talk about here on this channel. Okay, Fetchy says, I really like your content, but I should go to sleep before the sun rises. Thank you for your advices. Bye bye. I will take your advices. Absolutely, Fetchy. We'll get some rest. Thank you for being here today, friend, and always good to see you. And let me know how things go with your teacher. I hope all goes well. And I appreciate you being here and just get some rest. So we've talked specifically about a couple things as it relates to influence. Should you use your using your power influence others? I've answered the question for Cat 23rd. Yes, it does. It does mean you are influencing others, but it's a matter of how. Thank you for the heart emojis. It's a matter of how are you using your superpower? How are you using your superstar card? Are you using it for good influence? Are you using it for a bad influence? And are you being dishonest about it? Which is going to lean a little bit more towards manipulating other people. Now, there's a couple other things going on specifically. So I've been able to post my live schedule so you all know when I'm going to be going live. I'll be well, I'm not going to go into all the dates, but I'm going to be live pretty much about 7 to 8 times a week. I'm going to keep that cadence going. I do plan on doing some other pre-recorded videos as soon as I get my studio set up here. Specifically, I'll be doing a lot more pre-recorded videos, and there's something else I'm going to test out doing that I'm going to see what you all think about it. It is going to be a compilation of my playlist, and I am looking into software right now. I have a couple down, but there's a way that I may be able to play my playlist for a specified amount of time so that if there's things or content in my playlist, it'll just automatically play. It'll just show that I'm live. That's something I'm probably going to do on the weekend. So my live physical lives will still be during the week, but on the weekends I may do something a little bit differently. Just you all can give me some feedback in terms of letting me know if you like it, if you don't like it, what your thoughts are about it, and etc. But I'm here to support you. So if you're going through anything, you're navigating anything that's really challenging, especially as a leader and as someone that's trying to maybe determine how do you say something, how do you conduct yourself so that you're developing your executive presence, how can you be that person that doesn't freeze when you're in front of a group of people, how can you maintain eye contact, how can you advance in your career, all those things. I'm here to help you. So feel free to just learn from my over 20 years of expertise of being in these different type of situations to help you on your journey so that you don't necessarily have to be that person just going in everything alone. Bring me the hard things, please. So easy things I can navigate, of course, but the hard stuff is really my expertise. Really complex situations is just what is a superpower for me. And I don't want you to be that person that feels like you're alone, you don't know what to do, you don't know how to handle it, etc. If you are a woman in leadership, you're always welcome to reach out to me for some additional support if you need it. I have my executive strategy session, which will definitely give you a solid foundation. If you have something you just really are trying to work through and you need to get a clearer picture in terms of where you're going, but you've been doing it yourself and you're just tired of spinning your wheels or being in a hamster wheel and you really want to move forward, then working with me specifically on that end is a great way to help you. If you're at that point where you are ready to truly master how you communicate under pressure, maybe you are starting out in a leadership role, maybe you know your ability or lack of your ability to communicate under pressure is costing you money. It's costing you to be overlooked for promotions, costing you to be overlooked for business opportunities, or potentially going to prevent you from being able to be more visible or more on camera, on social media, or on media in general. Then you absolutely want to sign up for my high stakes communication intensive. There's going to be a lot more content about these two services here in the very near future. If you're at the point where you're ready to have your life changed, then come work with me because I absolutely will definitely change your life in terms of how you communicate. What I do here live is my gift to the world. I want to build the the high stakes uh, a high pressure content library for leaders on planet Earth. I want to build the biggest library here, and that's why I'm here sharing it with you. But there's always a point in time where you just need someone to be just in it with you, and in it with you meaning understanding your situation. What is it that you're going through specifically? There's only but so much I can tell you live in a live setting because this is for the world, the entire world. But there's sometimes you just need private support and customized support, and that's what I'm here to help you with. So I will see you in the next video. Definitely take a look at the videos from this week as it relates to influence. We talked a little bit about it. I may go into influence a bit more tomorrow, but there's a lot of content here. There's a tremendous amount of content here. We have over 1,000 videos to support you. I appreciate individuals like Fetchy, Cat 23rd, and so many of you for giving a lot of insight. There's so many of you here. I don't want to list everybody's names because I don't want to forget anyone. But I appreciate you all being here and being the most amazing part of my channel, an amazing part of my community. You all are amazing subscribers, and I know you are going to do some really huge and wonderful things in the world today. So I will see you all in the next video.